There are still a few modes for the brush that we have not covered, and today I'd like to talk about this one here. This one is the pattern or the offset pattern, very similar, and essentially it amounts to the following. Let's say you have a shape that you want to fill, right? Let's give it a little bit better quality here. Okay, so let's say I want to fill this, or let's say I want to fill this one here. And I want to fill this area and this area, the eyes. Essentially I want to fill it with a pattern or a texture, and that pattern could come in from basically from a brush image. So if you look at the brush settings, you have actually work to do that, a way to do that with the custom brushes. And let's say down here, right? So there is a patterns option, and what that will do is allow you to to bring in all sorts of images. These are included with Dog Waffle, and you can select images to be loaded in as custom brushes. I don't know why I have it twice here. I guess I double clicked, or I clicked it the second time. What's happening here? Got the brush settings. Oh, okay. I think it seems my tablet is acting up a little bit here. Anyway, if I load, for instance, this one here, right? If I were to just use the fill tool, that would be one way to work with this. So fill tool, and I could go and fill in the eye. Oh wait, the fill tool. Yeah, you can use that to fill it in the plain fill color. You can also use it to fill with that pattern, but you have to tell it to that's the mode you want to use. So there's some fill settings for that. And in the fill settings, you'll see you can either fill with gradients. If you have a gradient in effect, there's always one somewhere. And you can also fill it, for instance, with a gradient going from left to right, right? But there's also filling with the fill pattern, with the current pattern that you have in your brush, your custom brush. You can see these patterns here again, so it opens up that same list here. Now, when you have this this pattern, you can pick one of those. Let's say the one here, the field with the flowers, right? And you can say you'd like to fill it with the pattern. Sure. So you select this pattern fill mode, and then when you click here and click here, it will put that pattern right in there. Right. So that's one way to work with this. Let's get a different pattern for the head, and let's get the brick here, and we have now brick head. And so that would be one way to do it, to just fill the entire area with it. But you can only do that with the fill tool if the area is closed, right? I mean, if for instance there is a little opening here somewhere, let's go and undo this, and if there's a little gap, okay, this is a big gap. Okay, let's give you that. Let's make it a small gap. Let's see if you can go. Okay, here's a little gap, right? And if I use the fill tool on that with the brick, well, if I'm clicking on the inside where the head is, it's not going to fill just the head, because it branches out through that opening here and it goes out. We saw that in another video. If you don't have a closed area, the fill tool will work, but it will go beyond the area that you think you might want to fill. So sometimes you want to really just paint the area with that brick, and or with whatever texture that you have there, right? So you'd like to have this kind of result, even if there is a little bit of an opening somewhere. So instead of the fill tool, what you could use is the brush tool, and make the brush pick up the texture that you want. But when you do so, normally as you stamp it down, that will work, right? But every time, let's say if you drag it around, you'll see this trail, and on top of that, you also need a selection mask to contain it. So let's do that first. Or for instance, if we select the eyes here, let's go with the magic wand and select the eye, and you can select the other eye too with the shift click. So you have now both selected, both areas, and there's a little, where do we have that? Yeah, click here and then shift click on the one to the right side. So you see the marching ants on both eyes. Both are selected, which means that if you go back to the paint tool, you can now paint in here. But it's still smearing it. See how it's containing it and limiting it to the eyes, but it's smearing it. And you'd really like to have a nice clean replication of the texture without you having to figure out where is it and where is the next one. Even if you have the preview mode enabled, it's kind of awkward to do that, especially if you have a very noisy texture like this one. And you know, how do you line it up so it's a perfect match and it doesn't show a jump or something like that? Like for instance, if I do this one here, right? Now I need to, I know it's a replicating texture, but I'll have to line it up exactly perfectly. And it's quite possible that you'll see a seam somewhere. For instance, if I use this one, this one's a little bit bigger, right? And let's move this over. All right, so now which one is it? You know, how do I line it up so that it's not showing that seam? And so that's where this mode is going to help you. Let me show you that. All right, this mode, which is the pattern mode. All right, what you do with that is let's take a smaller example of a texture. This one's pretty small. All right, so what you do with that is that as you're painting, right now it's doing the regular painting and smearing it, kind of, I mean, leaving a trail, because I just picked that brush or that pattern, and it sets by default it sets the mode to the default mode, and I want to change that to pattern mode now. Right, so when I do that, you see it's not doing this smearing, it's just it's laying out that pattern as I'm going in. Let's do the head the same way. Let's go and select magic wand. Where are you? There, magic wand. Let's use the magic wand to select the inside, the head. Let's use I don't know, maybe the flowers. Let's see how small that is. I want to see one that's not too big. Yeah, that one will work. All right, so I'm drawing from the outside and coming in this way, right? So check this. Now I have the magic wand. The selection is only on the inside of the head. So out here nothing happens, nothing shows. But the moment I branch into the head, it's starting to come. Here I'm not ready yet. This is the regular mode where it's leaving the trails. All right. So what I really want is go to the mode and set the pattern. Set it to pattern mode. Now check what's happening. It's just putting that pattern in without smearing on the edges, without trailing. And so with that, you can go and it's a pattern that replicates, right? So you can go and fill it in, and look at how beautifully easy that was. So and it's a clean display now, and you know, you can go perhaps give it a little bit of an additional 3D look with the drop shadow, the alpha glow, the emboss by alpha. That always looks really cool. And there you go. So this is an interesting one I wanted to bring to your attention. That's the pattern mode for the brush. There's also a similar one called offset pattern, which you know what, I'll have to read up exactly how to use it and or experiment with it. You know, essentially it's probably just, instead of centered, it's on the upper left corner or lower left or something. Or maybe you can even give it an offset with the Alt key. I'll have to check on that and get back to you with another little note on another video. But essentially what I wanted to do is show you this here, right? You can let's say we use the lasso tool. Where's my lasso tool? There. And yep, that's my lasso selection tool. Alright, so let's say I want to have a snake, and my snake is gonna go something like this. Here's my snake, and the snake has a big head, and it's a hungry snake with a big mouth. Alright, and then this snake also has a big eye, and we're gonna go like this. Alright, and so this entire area we want to fill now with snake skin. Let's take this one for instance. So we'll go to the brush tool, but we won't just fill it in like that. We will fill it in the mode called the pattern mode. And so now we have this snake filled in just like that. Alright, and then we go perhaps also add a little bit of a embossed mode to that. Where is it? Effects, embossed by alpha. Okay, that. And now of course the eye could be done with a different pattern. So let's go with the lasso tool again and go fill in the eye, or select the eye, right? And then perhaps we'll use this mode, and again this will fill it, but we will need to give it the pattern mode. There you go. And that one too we can possibly add a little bit of embossing by alpha, and there you go. Alright, so that's that for this quick little demo of how to use, or one of many other ways to use the pattern mode in the brush choice of many modes.